Hi, I'm natekokernot. Welcome to my channel. I am in the middle of a series where I've been challenging some of our most basic assumptions about how perception works and about whether perception is subjective or objective. Today I'm going to introduce the question, which has not been answered definitively as of yet, about whether reality as we know it is fundamental to our existence, or if our conscious awareness might be fundamental, and reality as we know it emerged from our consciousness. I've been referencing quantum mechanics as well as cognitive sciences and evolutionary game theory to point to evidence that it is indeed entirely subjective, and that the world as we see it is entirely a construction of our making. Watching this video as a standalone might leave you just scratching your head, or worse, thinking this guy is cray-cray. But I'm breaking things into small segments because I know from a first-hand experience that we just don't have great attention spans these days. If you want to hear all my evidence that I've pointed to up until now, you will have to click the visit channel icon and find the playlist titled Perception. Back to what I'm arguing today. I'm suggesting that we manifest our experience and sense as individuals. Our experience is what we're pointing at and calling reality. I'm saying that we're not seeing anything that is objectively there, but rather a dumbed-down representation of what is there. That was self-constructed or computed in our minds. Not in our brains, but in our minds. Let's go back to the idea of whether when a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it, whether it makes a sound. Sound is an experience, right? Think about it for a second. Someone standing right next to a gun going off has a different experience audibly than a person standing a mile away. When a tree falls in the forest, many sound waves might be produced, but whether an audible sound is experienced or not depends on whether a conscious agent with a set of ears is within earshot of that tree. Without any ears present, there's no tools present to translate the waves into sound, the experience. I'm saying conscious agent instead of human because, yes, theoretically, squirrel ears, rabbit ears, they'll certainly count as conscious agents as long as they have ears. Each and every conscious agent present is having their own experience of that sound, in that their ears and other parts of their sensory system are constructing the experience that they're having. Suppose only sound waves at the frequency of a dog whistle were produced by the tree falling. In that case, it would not make a sound that human ears would register as sound, but the dogs the humans brought with them would all be freaking out. You could say that evolutionarily speaking, we got ears because we didn't have eyes in the back of our heads, and for safety's sake, it proved to be useful to have some other sensory input to alert us to the fact that a tiger was wrestling through the bushes behind us. For some reason that I haven't thought about much, natural selection wound up favoring dogs who could register higher frequency sound or higher pitch sound waves than humans apparently needed to. But we gained this technology we call ears because it would be useful to us for surviving long enough to pass our genes along, not because it's telling us any golden truth about objective reality. This is where you would want to reference the first 3 videos I did in the Perception playlist to better understand some of the building blocks that I'm basing these alarming statements on. Back to quantum theory and the question of the tree falling in the forest. The high-energy physicists are questioning whether the tree is there in the first place. If there are no witnesses, this is where the question of quantum entanglement comes into the picture. This phenomena from the quantum world was even looked at by Einstein years ago, and it was described by him as, quote, spooky action at a distance. I can explain. Einstein was wrong about some things. He was fairly certain that light had a universal speed limit. We call it the speed of light. He thought the speed of light pertained to all information, so he was convinced that information could not break the cosmic speed limit. The notion of quantum entanglement, which was being theorized by some people in his time to explain some glaring inconsistencies between Einstein's own theory of relativity and the standard theory of quantum mechanics, which he also contributed to. I think that Einstein understood that the mathematical theory of quantum entanglement was sound, but emotionally he was having a hard time accepting it. The way oversimplified idea of quantum entanglement is that once 2 particles have come into contact with one another, we could take them to separate ends of the universe and then accurately predict the spin, a quantum state of one of these particles, simply by knowing the spin of the other particle, and we could know it instantly. It would be spinning opposite the other particle. If one spins up, the other is spinning down. If you're a quantum physicist watching, please understand that I know this is way oversimplified. I'm trying to make short videos. But it's true, it's been tested, and the scientists who proved it won the Nobel Peace Prize. I think it was in 2023, but I'm not sure about that fact. I've shared their speeches down below. Back to the double slit experiment, which I talked about 2 videos ago. There were many who assumed that there were local hidden variables involved with the strange behavior of light that seems to correlate with one variable, whether there's a conscious agent observing it. Now, with quantum entanglement, we can imagine other, wilder possibilities or explanations for why something manifests into a particle in time and space, or into what we call reality, that are not going on in the local vicinity. The idea that only local variables have an effect on whether things happen is very much an artifact of the physicalist's mechanistic understanding of cause and effect in the universe, and this idea is referred to as local realism. But it's no longer accepted as true, at least not in the high-energy physics realm of science, thanks to the winners of the Nobel Prize. So it's clearly not fringe science. The next conclusion is a bit of a bigger leap, but all of this insinuates that space-time as we understand it is doomed. What does that mean? Essentially, it means that space and time, that experience we are having, which we refer to as reality, and which we are considering to be something that is happening outside of us, is not happening outside of us, at least not as we are experiencing it. I'm not saying there isn't a reality happening outside of us. I'm saying it's beyond us to know by our senses alone what might be happening in that reality. And there is no shared sensory reality at all. Zippo. I mean this in the most literal way, even though that is also the most mind-bending way. There's many physicists who are absolutely convinced that space-time is doomed as a meaningful, fundamental explanation for how we came to be. Because essentially, what many of them are fairly certain of now is that consciousness itself is the fundamental thing, and that the pixelated dream that we call reality emerged from that consciousness. But we all know that consciousness arose from something happening among the neurons in our brain. Well, it turns out that's an assumption. Just like the Earth being flat was an assumption that just seemed obvious for a very long time. There's tons of people out there who have been studying consciousness from that physicalist perspective for centuries now. But in decades of searching, they have never been able to explain a single conscious experience, sometimes called a qualia, that is produced into awareness. Not one. By qualia, we could be referring to anything from the unique taste of a Granny Smith apple, to the unique sensation of a breeze on a face, to the unique odor of a skunk in our vicinity. This is called the hard problem of consciousness, and I'll talk about it more in my next video. Donald Hoffman teases these scientists about their failure in the most kind-hearted way, saying sometimes in his interviews that job security is assured for them if they keep tirelessly looking for the answers in the wrong place. Meanwhile, Nima Arkani-Hamed, a high-energy theoretical physicist working in the same office as Einstein did once at Princeton, has found some geometrical figures outside of the dimension of spacetime, which he is calling Amplitude Hedrints, and which are very promising. It's my understanding from hearing Hoffman talk about them that Arkani-Hamed is currently working out ways to test his theories at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. I'll share one of his many lectures in the more section below, but I warn you, it's highly technical and highly mathematical, and it went way over my head. I needed help from Donald Hoffman, who understands the math somewhat better than I do, and who can explain it in plain English. And I am basically paraphrasing his words. If you go to the More section and check out the Donald Hoffman video, which is the last link I shared, start listening at the 1540 timestamp, or even better, back up to the minute 15, and listen for about the next 15 minutes to hear a better explanation than I can give you in the short amount of time that I've allotted myself here. To break it down as best I can, he's saying that somehow the math needed to figure out the probability set of a scattering amplitude, which takes place when they observe something like two gluons crashing into one another, and four coming out. And this is the kind of experiment they run at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN all the time. It is much easier to work out mathematically if they are projected through these Amplitude Hedrints outside of spacetime. It simplifies hundreds of pages of math into just a few lines of math, and they wind up seeing new symmetries that they hadn't seen before when using the standard model of quantum mechanics. It's very promising, and yet it is still in the realm of theoretical physics and mathematics, and likely to be proven true sometime soon in a Large Hadron Collider near you. But if they are right, it means that the world that is happening independent of our minds is beyond our ability to perceive with our sensory tools. We know it already in the abstract realm of mathematics, but it hasn't been proven empirically as of yet at this time. That's about all I want to hit you with today. There's probably a lot of head scratching going on if you've made it this far. I want to promise you that where I'm going with all this, it's ultimately really good news. But I realize I have more explaining to do before I expect you to be convinced at all. Also, I'm not asking anyone to take my word for it. Once you start considering these ideas, you can use your thumbs here on YouTube to seek out more yourself. If you believe that you have to see it to believe it, you're going to have to choose to see more of the evidence to start believing it. If you want to believe it, and then once you do believe it, as I do now, you'll start to understand the world very differently, and understand that it all leads to a universe around us that is far safer than we thought it was. Once you click on one of those videos in the More section, that handy algorithm will start showing you things that you didn't know were there, just like how it happened for me. And if you're finding these ideas helpful, or just intriguing as fuck, please like and subscribe. And I want to thank all of you who have done that already. I made it to a new threshold today, 300 subscribers, and I couldn't have done it without my viewers, so thank you. Thank you all who have contributed to that. It's helpful to me because I'm trying to attract an agent to help me get my book published. So thanks again, and I'll see you soon.